Tonight, New South Wales Labor warns of more mass fish kills on the Darling River. And Wyala's Operation Flinders receives a generous donation.
With the latest from around the region, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. The South Australian government is looking to shut the farm gate on animal activists. It's revealed plans for new laws, introducing harsher penalties for people trespassing on farmland.
Beefing up security for our region's farmers. The state government is planning to crack down on protesters targeting the livestock industry.
Trespassing, posing biosecurity threats, and that has to stop. The laws need to be strengthened, so the penalties need to be increased.
Trespassers could face fines of up to $10,000 and even 12 months imprisonment. The Primary Industries Minister says that anti-livestock websites are putting a target on farmers' backs.
The activists, the vegan activists, the Aussie Farms websites are placing our farms at risk.
Tensions in the mid-north remain high. In April, police responded to misinformation circulating on the internet about activists targeting properties in Burra. 7 Spencer Gulf News contacted a number of local farmers who declined to comment, fearing reprisals from protesters if they go public. Livestock SA's president has backed the new laws, saying farms and stations are no different to any other private property.
Farms are not just places for business, they're also places for residents.
The member for Frome says that activists need to respect the privacy of landowners.
It's fearful for the families to have all these people come onto their property. You don't know if they're going to just have a peaceful march or what it may be.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Port Lincoln nurses are calling on the state government to do more in protecting healthcare employees. Nurses demonstrated in front of the local hospital yesterday afternoon. They wore purple scrubs and stickers, showing images of a colleague recently attacked by a patient. The action aims to encourage the state government to adopt the Nurses Union's 10-point plan to reduce violence.
We want the Minister for Health and indeed the Premier for Health to stand up to stop the violence. We need them to be saying violence is unacceptable, we don't accept it, and we will take every action to end it.
The union says the demonstrations will continue until the Marshall government addresses the issue. New figures show South Australia's mineral exploration growth rate is the best in the nation. Those in the resources sector say copper-rich areas in the north have been targeted by investors.
Regional South Australia is resource rich.
We're rich in copper, and copper is a very in-demand mineral in the world.
And now the numbers prove it's also exploration strong. Data from the Bureau of Statistics shows in the last financial year, this state experienced a 55% rise in exploration, almost 3 times the national average.
That's the indicator of confidence today of the projects that we're going to be looking at in a decade's time.
State government funding incentives to encourage mining exploration is what experts say has filled investors with confidence.
Governments and other agencies being very business-minded, having a real clear idea about how to help the exploration sector.
The state's resources sector currently employs 26,000 people, and the Chamber of Commerce says that number is continuing to grow.
This is also being mirrored by a 50% increase in advertised positions in the resources sector in the last quarter.
New projects have to start somewhere, and they have to start with exploration investment.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
New South Wales Labor leader Jodie Mackay has visited Broken Hill, warning more Darling River fish deaths could happen this summer. She's urging the state government to act now.
Getting a first-hand look at the region's water crisis.
It's a desperate situation, and I think the community is crying out for government help and assistance.
The state opposition leader met with Broken Hill and Menindee locals as part of the tour of the region. She was supported by the city's mayor Daria Turley and Western New South Wales Shadow Minister Mick Veitch. Miss Mackay saying the draft review from the Natural Resources Commission into the Murray-Darling water sharing plan needs to be considered.
You've got an independent body committee, which has made some really important recommendations, but equally important is they've told the story of the communities along the river.
A royal commission into the plan, the Wentworth to Broken Hill pipeline and its business case remains the party's policy. The Labor leader saying locals were right to be sceptical about the pipeline project long before it was built.
What they've been saying all along was in fact the truth. Now, that business case says it is. They say the community is right.
Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Wyala's Operation Flinders is a step closer to reality after a $5,000 donation by TFS Civil. The company's director says the project will benefit the wider community.
Tackling Wyala's youth crime rates, construction company TFS Civil have joined the Operation Flinders cause, donating vital funds towards the project.
I told him how much we were prepared to let go so that they could get the program off the ground, and since then I've been flooded with emails.
The company's director says it's a deserving cause.
And I thought that that'd be something worthwhile that we should look donating into. We do it everywhere we go. We find a charity everywhere that we go and put something back.
The program was first launched at June's Community Crime Forum. It's looking to raise $16,000 to keep young people out of trouble.
There's a large number of kids at risk in Wyala. Some of them are part of our system and some of them are not part of our system, but our aim is to try and keep them out of the system.
The Department of Child Protection says the 4-figure donation will make a difference.
I think 10 kids will make a change. It's a small change, but we have to start somewhere, and we are just hoping that this can become sustainable.
Inspector Mark Hubbard says while they're close to their target, they still need donations.
This donation has come to us from someone who was watching the news, and we would say to anyone else who's watching tonight to please consider donating to Operation Flinders. It's a really good cause.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, Port Augusta plays host to a solar car challenge team, and Port Lincoln's Railway Museum turns 20. Welcome back. A group of over 20 Dutch students are about to take on the challenge of racing from Darwin to Adelaide in a solar-powered car. The group is preparing for the race in Port Augusta.
They've already journeyed from the Netherlands to Port Augusta, but these students' biggest adventure is just over a month away. They'll be racing against the clock in this green solar-powered car.
And then the challenge is to drive from Darwin to Adelaide in as less time as possible. So that's like 3,000 kilometers.
Top Dutch Solar Racing is one of nearly 100 teams that'll race through the middle of Australia. They're currently in Port Augusta, using the Flying Club as a DIY workshop.
We're basically rebuilding the car right now. Of course, we had some testing kilometers in the Netherlands, but we're now trying to get it race ready.
Innovations like four-wheeled steering could give them the X factor.
That means if you have a side wind, we can put the car in an angle, so we can basically sail across the wind.
And preparations have gone far beyond the car's construction.
We've done lots of sports, lots of mental trainings. Also went to the sauna to get used to the heat.
Their goal is to finish in just 4 days.
Can you imagine if we participate for the very first time and actually win? That would be the best.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Wyala's Middleback Theatre has a touch of pink about it. It's been redecorated by Pink Spirits ahead of October's National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. A number of activities are planned, including the McGrath Foundation's Pink Up Your Town fundraiser. They're encouraging the community to get involved in the events, with the cancer affecting 1 in 7 Australians. South Australia's Council for the Ageing will visit the Eyre Peninsula next week as part of a statewide tour. They want to hear from elderly residents about the challenges facing them in regional areas. They'll visit Port Lincoln, Kimber and Woodner, providing an opportunity for our older generation to have their say. For more information, visit the Council's website. Students from across the York and Mid-North are in harmony tonight for Port Pirie's annual combined choir. Around 200 local students will take part.
The Mid-North's finest young singers are bringing a touch of music to Port Pirie's Keith Michelle Theatre. Almost 200 students taking to the stage for the combined choir, which is based on the Adelaide Festival.
Great way to celebrate music because sport's very big in our community, but we want to show that arts is just as important.
For soloist Rex Nichols, singing is more than just a hobby. He says he's looking forward to his first year singing on stage.
I joined this year because I really wanted to show my passion for music and do what I love.
Students have been practicing tirelessly every Monday since February, getting their vocal cords ready for tonight's big event.
I am a soprano, so yeah, like high notes and all that, so it's pretty great.
I've always wanted to join choir since I was first at school.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Sounds good. Port Lincoln's Railway Museum is celebrating its 20th anniversary this week, with train enthusiasts celebrating the rich history of the line. The railway served the community for over a century, until it was closed back in May.
It was the turn of the century when the first stones were laid for Port Lincoln's railway station. Over 100 years later, and the trains might have moved on, but the building still remains.
It provided the major transport service, not just for people, but for freight, the agricultural products going out.
The heritage-listed building now serving as a railway museum, housing journals and photos dating back to the early 1900s.
First opened in a couple of rooms 20 years ago. It's gradually expanded to most of the ground floor of the station now and to the old freight shed.
Back in its heyday, the railway was important in opening up the Eyre Peninsula, helping farmers transport their product to markets overseas.
It really was the lifeline that kept the centre of Eyre Peninsula alive.
Organisers say it's important to keep the museum and stories alive for the younger generation, following the closure of the railway earlier this year.
It is a rich history and it's only been partly tapped so far.
The Preservation Society now hope to take control of the top floor of the building and turn it into a town museum. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Demolition work has begun at Broken Hill's Jubilee Oval as part of a major upgrade. It's set to have a big impact on this weekend's footy grand final and local summer sport.
In just 48 hours, more than a third of the city end bleachers demolished and removed.
The last 12 months has been about getting all the paperwork, the DAs together, the construction certificates. The time has arrived.
It signals the start of a multi-million-dollar redevelopment of the Jubilee Oval. The upgrades include a second story on the ground manager's office, a white picket fence around the Oval, new light towers and new umpire and team change rooms.
Most of the facilities here, I look around and I can see that they were actually built in the 40s or 50s. Nothing much has changed, but this project is certainly necessary.
The demolition of the bleachers is happening with the city days away from the local grand final. Mr. Schmidt says while it's an unfortunate situation, the work started this week to avoid delays.
The people undertaking the work here today, if we didn't start this week, we're not available for another 2 weeks, and we've got builders and contractors ready to start. So short-term pain, long-term gain.
AFL Broken Hill wants it completed before the start of the 2020 footy season. It means there'll be no sport played on the Oval this summer.
This is one of those projects where things can be done simultaneously. Normally one trade is waiting for the other.
Patrick Ryankey, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll have a look at the region's pump prices. And Brett will join us with the latest weather details. Hello again. Time for a look at how prices are shaping up at the Bowser. Here's Patrick with Fuel Watch.
It's been a very quiet week at service stations across the Spencer Gulf and here in Broken Hill. Not much movement at all. Starting with unleaded, and there's a bit of colour but little change. Port Lincoln is now paying $1.44, Whyalla is 9 cents cheaper at $1.35. Port Pirie joins Port Augusta at $1.38, a cent cheaper than Kadina, which broke even. In the Silver City, we've seen a drop in our prices this week, the average going down by 2 cents. Adelaide is back up into the $1.50 $1.50s as the cycle starts again. Turning over to diesel now, and Port Lincoln is still on $1.49, the same as Kadina. Whyalla and Port Pirie are both on $1.48, Port Augusta around the mark as well. Again, Broken Hill has seen the biggest change in price, falling 2 cents to be paying $1.50. Adelaide has gone up by a very small margin, it's still paying $1.41. Finishing off with a look at Autogas, and it's extremely quiet across all townships. Absolutely no movement whatsoever, apart from Adelaide going up slightly. Port Lincoln is at 92 cents, Whyalla is a cent more, Port Augusta and Kadina are both averaging 89, Broken Hill is 2 cents cheaper on 87. Port Pirie rounds out the board, still the cheapest of anywhere, the Spencer Gulf town only paying 79 cents per litre. Now remember that these prices are the regional averages and they do not reflect any one particular outlet. And if you do find a spot that does sell unleaded, auto gas or diesel for cheaper, be sure to let us know on our Facebook page.
And time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather. Here's Britt.
Thanks, John. It's been a mixed bag about the region today. Sunny conditions about Broken Hill reaching a top of 30 degrees. It was fine at Port Augusta 28, Port Pirie 25, Whyalla 22, with showers about southern parts, Port Lincoln and Adelaide both reaching 18 degrees today. From the satellite, we can see patchy low cloud with a low-level trough bringing those showers in the south. High pressure still keeping the north of the Spencer Gulf relatively fine and clear. To tomorrow now with westerly winds on the Gulf waters at up to 30 knots with seas at 1 metre. And maximum temperatures are looking a bit closer to average for this time of year. A mostly fine day ahead with showers about the lower Eyre Peninsula. Broken Hill looking at a top of 29 tomorrow, Port Augusta 23, Corn 22, Whyalla 21, Port Pirie 20, Woodner 19, Cleveland Kadina both 18, Port Lincoln, Clare and Adelaide all with expected tops of 17 degrees, Coffin Bay just 14. Moving ahead to the end of the week, Port Lincoln expecting rain and wind on Friday, looking cloudy on Saturday with showers Sunday. Clare expecting showers Friday with cloudy conditions to start the weekend. Woodner looking cloudy Friday and Saturday. Strong winds expected at Whyalla and Port Augusta on Friday, remaining fine Saturday and Sunday. Kadina with storms on Friday, looking cloudy on Saturday. Port Pirie and Clare both expecting rain and wind on Friday with cloudy conditions on Saturday ahead of a mostly fine day on Sunday. And finally to Broken Hill where we can expect strong winds on Friday but looking fine across the weekend. And with that, John, it's back to you.
Thanks for that, Brett. And that's the local news this Wednesday evening. Thanks so much for your company. I'll have some updates later in the evening, but until then, enjoy your evening here on 7. On behalf of the team, it's good night.